Oh, man, and we're back.
Yes, that's right. I'm Salt. This is Pepper. 2 dudes in a cold van.
You got your own mic this time. So
I do. I'm quite thrilled to have a microphone this time.
Yeah.
We are.
We're in fact in a van that somehow is colder than it was outside, which is remarkably cold.
It is. It's some kind of science going on in here. Oh, I see a pack of hot hands.
We might have to. They also gave us swivel chairs, so you guys get to sit through this. Just
2 guys,
couple dudes swiveling in a van.
But no, we do have some rally action to show you.
Right. That's what we're here for.
And we have some cameras in the field.
We do.
So what we're going to be doing right now is we're going to be watching some action and doing some PGA Tour style voiceover.
Absolutely. We sure are, Ron. And we're heading out onto stage here momentarily where the cars are right in the heart of the action. Was that good? Was that PGA Tour?
I'm flabbergasted. I'm speechless. Man. That was really, really good.
Thanks, dude. I've been working on that I watch Happy Gilmore
Tour
every week.
Oh, God. That is some high quality.
Yeah, every Saturday I get a $5 footlong and I just sit down. I just watch him drive that thing right down into the.
Dave, what's on your $5 footlong?
It's just vegetables, dude. It's just a piece of bread covered in vegetables and oil and vinegar.
Yes,
it's not. What's on yours, dude? What's your? Because they don't have high quality smoked meats in the Subway. At least not here.
I'm sort of embarrassed to say. I won't tell you my first. That'll stay a mystery forever. Whoa. But my second go-to is the meatball sub.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, I mean the meatball sub is, if you got to do it, it's a nice time, especially in weather like this.
Let me throw some really important rally knowledge out there. Now, if you're on the super rally budget, there's a common formula for purchasing food on the road, and that's calories per dollar. Now, if you look at the meatball sub, that sandwich has been priced assuming that people aren't going to add any toppings. So they priced it to say hey, I'm just going to put some meatballs, some sauce in there, good to go, maybe some cheese.
What else is this psychopath going to put on a meatball sub?
Maybe some pickles. Who knows, dude? You can put anything on there.
Bell peppers?
Yeah, toss it on, dude. I'm not doing pickles. That was a prank. But I'm all about maybe a little spinach, maybe some banana peppers, dude. Jalapeno if you're ready to party.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's some good moves. That was a signature back in the day, and I'm still known to party pretty hard on
the cinnamon bun is a very strong contender for calories per dollar.
Oh, got it.
Yeah,
I thought there was some location of Subway you went to where they're like, you want white wheat or cinnamon bun?
That's right. We're bringing it to you here. Cinnamon bun topping on a meatball sub.
Let me get a cold cut trio on a cinnamon bun. That'll be a foot long. Just unroll it, put all my meats in, and roll it back anyway. So today we're going to talk. Do you want to talk about rally cars or just sandwiches?
Look, if it was up to me, it'd be sandwiches. But today it's going to be sandwiches and rally cars. Wow. Heavy emphasis on the rally cars.
Yeah. So as we discussed earlier, we've got Brandon and Barry in a pretty incredible tight battle. Barry has been out for a year and some change. A year. He was here at 100 Acre last year.
Right. But some significant changes to his car that any kind of change you make to a vehicle at that level, drivers are going to adapt. But at the limit, it's going to change your driving style a lot. And These guys have taken kind of a hit on aero. The aero rules have gotten a lot more strict. And even Barry said when we were talking to him earlier, he said, the front grips changed dramatically because, he just doesn't have the same amount of things that he's allowed to have on the front of the car. Same with Brandon, too. Completely different driving styles. So to see them equal it's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, and Brandon has the advantage of obviously having just run the car at Snowdrift, and for him that car's fairly similar, he said, to the car a couple years ago. So this is kind of, like we said, it's kind of rolling the clock back for them. So it's not an enormous fundamental change in that car. It's just he's not able to rely on quite the power and the aero grip that he had previously.
Correct.
So that's been an exciting battle to watch. But I mean, as we're going to see, we've got a lot of incredible cars in the field. Conditions, I mean, not a single person has said anything other than how stoked they are about how smooth and fast everything is on stage.
Which is honestly, it's my favorite thing. When the stages are good, they're smooth, there's a ton of grip. The rain doesn't seem to have caused any major issues for anybody. We just had the quote-unquote frozen groundhog out there, which is some kind of hidden rock that's caught a lot of cars out. 9 cars out last I heard.
Yeah.
A bit more now. But.
Yeah, I think Ely Barta's going to have to make a T-shirt with the frozen groundhog. And it's just don't cut frozen groundhog. And it's just a large stone.
That didn't show up on Recce.
Yeah. No, I think one of the things I've noticed, though, is when you get conditions that are that good, you have a completely different kind of atrophy in the field, and that's that you start losing cars because people's confidence is so high.
That's true.
Because the conditions are so good, and like you said, we had free water truck overnight. We had a ton of rain that helped to keep, it sounds like grip really good out there today. Is kind of the ideal situation. Dust is down for spectators and for drivers. It means you don't worry about the dust windows for competitors. Conditions are and as cold as we are in this icebox of a van out there, those cars are very happy, especially the forced induction cars with the cold weather.
It's turbo weather.
Yeah, there it is.
Those things are quite happy with the conditions we're at today. So, I mean, long story short, perfect day for rallying.
Yeah. Do you hear that? Do you hear the wind blowing this van?
It sounds like we are about
savagely
to break the speed barrier.
We might be, dude.
Right
Are we
now.
on the Bonneville Salt Flats currently? Is this thing going 258? About to set a record?
Listen, man, we got to go.
Hey, we should see if there's a like a Guinness record or a Bonneville Salt record we can Bonneville Salt records. That's the thing
for the Ram Pro Charger.
A land speed record we can do for the Ram Pro Charger while live streaming. Yeah, like highest speed live stream on the ground.
You would like to see that.
Just don't actually.
Yeah, please.
Don't encourage that. Ron and I's list of questionable decisions that we plan on making in our lives, whether together or separate, is already quite long.
The finances behind that one will be quite challenging.
That's not clearing out of my bank account.
Oh.
So yeah, it's also starting to be sunset. We're watching the camera angles are slowly dimming as we
ISOs
head out
are
on
going
stage.
Up.
Yeah, they are. They're cranking.
But even just looking at the one corner that we're going to be kind of dissecting today, look at that. It's a nice smooth cut on camber. I don't know if they're going to be coming towards us or going away, but either way, that corner
is nice.
Alone, that's a nice corner.
It is. It's pretty. I mean, like, so I'm a self-proclaimed. I'm making this term up right now, but gravelologist, right? I was just sort of, I did that one on the fly. That was good, right? Just made it right on up.
Yeah.
I move a lot of dirt and gravel, and that's probably my favorite thing to do on Earth. Even honestly, more so than driving rally cars.
My favorite thing to do on Earth is moving it.
Is moving dirt and gravel and building roads, and specifically building rally stages. And I think having an appreciation of the amount of effort that it takes to build a road that smooth, that's crowned that well, that's got that level of compaction without washboarding in these conditions it's awesome. And again, like we said, all the drivers after recce were excited, and and I mean, I could just stare at the crown on that road forever and just think about how functional that drainage is. I bet there's some beautifully installed culverts within a few meters of there.
Talking about functional drainage.
Hey, I'm functional. This is drainage. Yeah, I'm culvert, and this is crown.
That's right.
Yeah,
we just went to the convenience store right here next door and got our announcing team names.
Yeah. Potted meat and treat. One of those, it was Armor brand treat meat, TREET.
That is another good. Armor and all.
Yeah, strawberries and cream.
Yes,
Nutter and butter. Yeah, we had a few good ones. So you guys just let us know what your favorite is, what you think what our nicknames should be moving forward.
So we're just about maybe 30 seconds out from cars hitting stage.
Fingers crossed. That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, that's what we're looking to see.
I can just talk about road crown and tall pines for a long time. Look at all those. They're looking fancy. We may have a delay on stage. We're not sure yet. So either way, I mean, we're just gonna be sitting here looking pretty, talking about nothing.
That's right.
So we covered. Hey, do you know the story on the subject of sandwiches? Do you know about the decline of Quiznos? It's one of the wildest stories ever.
I do not. Oh, we got a car on stage.
Oh, right, you don't want to talk about Quiznos?
Brandon
All right,
7.
there it is. Brandon 7 coming in hot. Whoa, spicy. I guess we know which direction he's going.
Sets the absolute standard.
But look at this. So that's first car on stage, right? So this is first tracks. So I want everybody at home to watch how the conditions, how dramatically they change from when we first saw the stage, we first saw the shot, and it was clean gravel. All that had happened here so far is you had recce, and then you had a handful of spectators and marshals driving on this stage today, and just like that, you've got your first set of tires.
Yep.
And it completely changes the grip. The challenge now is every car behind there has to sort of function in the clean, or what we call swept line. So Brandon has the disadvantage of being first on the road. You can see there. Look at what the hairpin looks like in that shot there, and how much material's already moved there. Watching the combination of evolution and sort of devolution of the road conditions, to me, is the coolest part that we get to watch live. Is seeing how much different that's going to be for not as dramatic for Barry, say. But then when you get to Tom and you get to Pat Gruska, and as you know, the further back you move, the more it's like, hey, there's a clear line, there's clear grip. If you're outside of that, you're on the marbles.
Yeah, exactly. And I think another interesting tactic that I've seen in the past is following another one's tire mark. So you were talking about the disadvantage of being the first on road. A, you're sweeping. You got to push all that gravel away, so it slows you down a bit. But B, you don't have marks to see, entry points or grip levels or anything like that. But I've even heard in the past of drivers specifically setting strange tire marks. Oh, here we got Barry McKenna coming in.
Yeah, so Barry's, again, has got to kind of function in that line.
Very similar. It seems to be a bit less braking coming in, and wow, look at that roost.
Oh, it just makes me feel things in my soul, in my body.
Yeah,
It's
Brandon
wild.
Brandon seemed to be taking a little bit more of a conservative line through there because he seemed to be on the brakes just that little bit more. I don't know, maybe he has a softer suspension setup, but man, Barry just tearing through there. It looked really clean.
Well, one of the things that Brandon did that was very different from Barry, Ken, and Travis, if you look at Barry and Ken and Travis's style, all three of those guys are really aggressive. They rotate the car a lot. There's a ton of slide angle. All three of them kind of have a really similar, not just driving style, but aesthetic, the way that it looks. And Brandon has a lot more of that sort of Sebastian Loeb, very composed, low sort of slip angle style of driving. So, like, Brandon comes in and it's visibly ludicrously fast, but Barry's always going to look that much faster because it's just visually so aggressive.
Visually, that makes a ton of sense. And it's a funny thing, we were talking about this at your last rally sprint. You could have two drivers, two wildly different lines, and an extremely similar time for the two.
Yeah. We always, in rally school, we always tell people, it's like, look, you can put four drivers, in our group of friends out in the same car on the same stage, and if you know us well enough, you know who's driving based on the style. And the times might be really similar. But, we were talking about the line, and I think one of the things that's fascinating is there's obviously sort of an ideal line, but I always refer to rallying, when we're in rally school, I always tell people, like, look, going and learning road racing is like learning a science. This is where you turn in, this is how much, this is what the whole, the program is, sort of like a software program, and then you repeat it. And it's not to say that you're not constantly having to make small subtle changes, but there is literally software that says Sebring with this driver and this car and this tire at this temperature produces this lap time. And that just can't happen in rallying because it's so abstract. So watching here and knowing, like, hey, this is the quote ideal line. Think about how, let's take last season. Think about how different it is for Ken's world car versus Travis and Brandon, who have very different driving styles in the two Subarus. Then you've got Tom in a Rally 2 car. You had me in a limited Subaru, which is a very production Subaru. A production Subaru versus Ken's world car, they do not behave the same.
No, absolutely
very
not.
different inputs.
Completely. Here we go. Tom,
speaking of which, so Tom coming in the RC2 car, again, this is a very different car, very different style. He's not nearly as tight on the inside, and same thing, is a much sort of shallower angle with the slide through there.
And it seemed to be a little bit later of a turn in, but maybe he's not working with the same amount of aero as the other two cars.
Yeah, I think also Tom knows that the times already show that Tom's fight is, he knows where his fight is. And Tom he's a pretty smart and regimented driver who knows, it's like, look, he knows where to kind of handle his battle. And right now his battle is with Pat Gruska in the Hyundai Rally 2 car just behind him. That's the RC2 class fight right now. So for Tom, it's not like, this is not about
attack, not crazy battle right now. He's maintaining speed and increasing where he needs to.
He knows that it's Barry and Brandon are at war right now, and he just needs to be there. So, and again, when you get this far into the day and you're close to the end of the day, it's easy to want to just be there, right? Just get through it, close out.
We just saw Pat come through.
We did very quick. Too. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see. We just kind of got the tail end of Pat. We just saw APU. We didn't quite get the green.
No.
It's fun to see Pat in a car that's an engineered rally car versus they were in that Mirage open class car past few years,
which is essentially a proto car,
and it super awesome car, but it's just these Rally 2 cars. I think it's for folks who don't really understand like the difference between, say, Vermont Sports Cars Subaru, that they've put a ton of engineering time in. That's essentially, they've been evolving that platform since 2008. Right, so the car that we saw in Ken's the memorial that we did last night with Ken, or the celebration tribute we did last night, that's a 2007 car. They moved to the 2008 chassis a year later, and that basic suspension design is the same evolution that we have all the way up to this year's car.
Oh, wow.
They really haven't. There's not a
Since the 08.
since the '08
Wow.
car. So back to and I'm actually not sure. I can't remember if Rally's it. Whoa, is a
man.
I want to say I can't remember if his is a proto or if it's one of those R5 S2000 WRC
hybrid kind of.
yeah, hodgepodge parts bin cars.
S2000 chassis with an R5 motor.
Yeah.
Any one of those things.
Yeah. But going back to Pat on that Mitsubishi is like Subaru's been evolving those cars for a long time. The R5 car came out, and that was essentially what became sort of the Rally 2 or WRC 2 car for the World Championship, and that was meant to be like ideally sort of the top car in national championships all over the world. Again, as we've talked about today, America has a very different rule set and a very different kind of mindset of like we have so many vehicles that want to rally.
Yep.
We have the rules ideally kind of being more inclusive. It means that the difference in cars is pretty enormous. So you don't have this spec homologated car where we know, okay, Ron's faster than Dave because they're both driving the same car. Good example. This is a RAV4.
Prime example. Oh, going wide.
Oh, that's nice though. He kept it tidy there in the exit.
Yeah. Very late apex there.
Yeah,
looking good.
Yeah, he always does.
I mean, how cool is that to see that thing just ripping out there? And when we built Kenton's car for the U.S. Rally Championship, we took the World Rally car at the time, which was a 1.6 liter Ford Fiesta. But because of the rules here, the maximum displacement we could have was 2 liter.
Yep.
So we ended up taking the 2 liter from the Focus from the prior year and being able to put that into a more nimble chassis. And that created an absolute weapon.
Yeah.
And for Ken, that was such a fun car to run on gravel stages. A car that would be completely illegal in the World Rally Championship.
Yeah.
But, here that allowed us to step up and make kind of the ultimate rally car at the time.
Well, and the RAV4 you just saw is based on the AP4, which is the Asia Pacific four-wheel drive platform, and that was sort of the initial concept was a friend of ours, Andrew Hawkswood, who we raced at Pikes Peak with back in 2005. Andrew and a bunch of other guys in Australia and New Zealand knew that they needed something that wasn't just this, because this is a modern Subaru, and they're just getting bigger, and they're sort of
long wheelbase, a bit more weight you got to deal with,
and you can see that
materials.
Yeah, you can see that. I mean, look at Dickinson there. Like that's a different look than the other cars coming through. And naturally, as you go, you're moving from your fastest to your slowest cars, but like that car's very quick and he's really quick.
Yes.
It's just that like when we look at that versus we just saw Brandon and Barry a minute ago, it's like you saw what was essentially the pinnacle of the world car with Barry's Fiesta.
Right.
And now you see the Subaru. These guys knew, talking to Andrew Hawkswood and the guys in New Zealand years ago, they knew that like the writing was on the wall for production rally cars. There's not a lot of cars being manufactured anymore besides Subaru. They're the only ones here who are manufacturing a car that still has those, sort of it's dare I say the pedigree word again, but like that
and
rally
with how
heritage.
homologation rules changed over the years, back in the our personal glory days of the 2005, 2006 STI, those parts on there had to be homologated for Group N. So you, out of the box, you had a great diff setup, you had the suspension points, everything. Later cars didn't have to follow those same rules.
Yeah. This car is one of the coolest cars here. It is an NA flat 6.
Really?
With a full-on WRC wide-body kit, and it is one of the coolest sounding cars possible with a sequential.
I can only imagine, because it sounds almost like a 911, but that's a very interesting build. I didn't know that car had a flat 6, but this year with the turbo restrictors going down to 33 mil, all of a sudden those NA cars are somewhat more viable because the power bands aren't that terribly far off from each other now. Yeah,
I mean, we saw Taylor at the first round of the championship in limited class in his Forester was pretty competitive right out of the gate because he has a flat 6. But going back to the AP4 car, what's cool about that RAV4 is that car has the same underpinnings as all of the AP4 cars that compete globally. So Hayden Paddon's Hyundai AP4 car,
same
subframes, same uprights, all the same underpinning. They're all built on the same chassis table, so they all share the same parts. So you've got sort of a universal setup, which again, looking at Ely Bar to Subaru here, that was a nice. That was tidy. Right, that's what we love about the Subarus is they share parts. So it's like if there's a GC or a GD or whatever, like almost all of the Subarus that are running production parts can share a tremendous amount of the components, which is part of what's made them so popular for so long.
Right.
The AP4 cars are cool too, because now the entire New Zealand Championship and Australia is running the Toyotas Audis, Mitsubishi, Hyundai, all these manufacturers are there, and all of them are built on a single chassis table.
Which is so huge because when you can make suspension pieces in those kind of volumes, your cost goes down naturally on that as well, and spares are easier to come by. And to my knowledge, the AP2 cars, or sorry, the AP4, their service intervals were made to be a bit longer than an R5 as well to keep costs down. But the performance isn't that terribly far off from like an R5.
Again, look at what's happening in rallying this year as we see Hooper coming in ready to party. We should just have a moment of silence, let Hooper do Hooper things and watch it. Oh, it's so good. Oh, look at that
just
shot.
That just exit oversteer Dusk cloud.
Just hard pedaling it into the sunset in my Lexus rally car.
Why not,
because I like
man?
to party. We love Hooper.
The lap of luxury.
That's what... I mean, yes, the service intervals are longer, but part of what works so well about that model is if you have the AP4 cars and you have the Rally 2 cars competing in the same series, you have the ability to BOP, balance of power. And that's the series organizers always have the ability to say, hey, we want the Rally 2 car to be closer in competition, in this case to the open class cars. And this season we're going to see a lot of kind of learning what needs to shift and change in the pace between the Rally 2 car in the RC2 class and open here. And that's the same thing that's been happening overseas for a long time, is like, hey, how do we get the AP4s and the Rally 2 cars to play nice?
Right.
Combination of restrictors and weight sort of minimums. This is like
the battle wagon.
Yeah, dude. This is like the classic American rally car.
And
Bug-Eye Subaru wagon.
Leading regional.
Yeah.
Or at least the last time we checked. I haven't looked at the times in a couple minutes, but leading the regional class in the Bug-Eye wagon.
Oh, man.
Legend.
That's the first WX I ever drove was a Bug-Eye wagon.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
Oh,
it's there. And like, we were like, wagons for life, which still 100% wagon life. The only difference on those wagons is they have a slightly different rear suspension than the sedans.
It's a bit shorter.
Yeah, so that's the only disadvantage to running the wagon.
That much less travel and about 100 pounds more just general chassis weight that you have to get rid of. Which makes it that much more impressive to see the speeds.
Speaking of impressive, that didn't feel like a minute, and here we are with Mike Nicholson shredding in the... Look at that thing, dude.
That's a front-wheel drive car, mind you. That is fantastic. With a door exit exhaust.
He's so good, dude.
I love it.
So
Absolutely
good.
love it.
And for as quiet as he is when we try to stick a microphone in his face, he does all of his talking on the stages, and every single time that car shows up to a rally, it's equally spicy.
Yeah.
And it's like, dead nuts reliable. Those guys are so consistent. They're always putting in quick times, but it's...
And that's a huge advantage. Any rally you go to.
Yeah. And I mean, it's... These guys have earned it. They've worked really hard to get that car where it is. And again, like we're saying, as far as classic rallying goes, like the Golf is like the iconic rally car in North America. I think, whether it's... If you went to Team O'Neill Rally School back in the day, you drove a classic Golf.
Absolutely. Chris Duplessis, I mean, he took however many championships in Group 2 in a front-wheel drive Golf. I mean, in the U.S., like you said, there was an era where that was the fast car to have.
Yeah. And it was, I mean, even Tim, before that in the early 90s, Tim was competing in the Golf. And it's, I mean, you look back overseas, like that's the original hot hatch. It makes sense. What does rally love more than anything? It's the front-wheel drive hot hatch. Although, I mean, personally, I think I got
one of the
more
best
than a few
of all time.
Got more than a few soft spots for the GC. It really is just like... It's so brilliantly timeless.
Yeah.
The crazy thing to me is 93 to 01 that car ran.
What a span.
That's a long That's a long run.
That's like the NSX with its 12-year run.
Yeah. Or the GTR we're going on 38 years in production. The R35 came about, what was that, 1984 the R35 was born? And then it's going to go out of production.
It's older than me, man.
Yeah, it's going to go out of production in 2048.
Yeah.
Like, all right, R36 is coming up.
Yeah,
we're creeping on 2050, so we might want to... That's what we need, man. We need there was some conversation a long time ago. A mutual friend of ours, the wonderful and endlessly kind Adam LZ once was talking about maybe there need to be a little R35 action.
But here comes Leah Block coming in with the light pod. Whoa, look at that
there
angle.
We go, Leah.
Yes.
That's what we like to see. Leah was, we were talking to Ree a little bit earlier, and she said, like, it's clear the confidence is each stage building, each corner building.
Yes.
Which is great, because the last thing we want Leah to do is go out and be like, I'm in a rear-wheel drive car now, and be like, I'm backwards in a rear-wheel drive car now.
Well, not just that, but we were also talking through, she's trying out different note systems. I mean, remember, like, yes, she's fast looking here, but she hasn't done that much rallying, and she's experimenting with a lot of different tactics and strategies, and she was training with Rhiannon's brother in Australia, and he uses a 1 through 10 note system, and that's it doesn't sound like that different of a scale of 1 through 6, but it really changes a lot of things, the degrees of corners. I believe she's back to her 1 through 6, and now right behind Lucy Block in the Rally 3 car, another really interesting chassis to me, also looking quick,
dude. Both of them. I mean, Lucy. I mean, both of them. I would say both Lucy and Leah. It's easy to to think of them as kind of new drivers, but they did a lot of rallying last year. They got a lot of stage miles
last year
in.
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And Lucy has a lot of rallies under her belt as well. I mean, way back in the day, she was in a Jetta that set fire so many times that it was nicknamed El Fuego.
And here comes Lucy in El Fuego. El Fuego. That's perfect. Rally Mexico this weekend. Should we just do the rest of it as Cebado Gigante? No, I mean, it is in the Rally 3 car. We were just talking about production-based rally cars. The Rally 3 car, I think one of the smartest changes this year that we sort of, I just kind of crossed my fingers that this could happen. The Rally 3 car being allowed in the limited four-wheel drive class is amazing, because that's basically what it's designed to be.
Right. A good bit more equal on the performance.
Yeah. And that, I mean, you really can't give me a GC that I'm not going to be happy about, but that was quick.
Absolutely.
These dudes were super tidy in there.
Well, the nice thing about that chassis is how absolutely light you can get it, especially the non-turbo cars. I mean, you're talking sub 2,500 pounds. I mean, 24, 2,300. For a rally car, especially that's all-wheel drive, that is a crazy light vehicle. Yeah,
and you've got weight minimums, obviously, in the NA four-wheel drive class that you've got to meet, but it's always nice when your car's underweight and you meet your weight minimums wherever you want to put it.
Exactly. You could just put it all underneath, super neutral handling, front or back, wherever you want it.
Yeah, and I mean, look at what Mark Piatkowski's done, who's actually in Italy this weekend. He's done an amazing job, both as a driver and developing a car that is the right platform for him to showcase his talent, that's affordable to run, and that he's able to keep. I mean, he's able to run that car with his budget to where that car is immaculately prepared all the time, and it shows. I mean, his results he's so consistent.
He's so incredibly fast, and driving a car with that little amount of power makes you such a better driver overall, because a lot of power, it hides a lot of mistakes, and it saves you in a lot of different places, where the momentum game is just something you have to play in those lower powered cars.
Yeah, and that's something, I mean, again, looking at when new drivers start, this is something that when Travis first started, he jumped with Ken. They jumped right into basically Group N cars, which we look at a Group N car now and we're like, that's not a lot of power, but at that time that was the top spec turbo all-wheel drive car. Funny story, do you know that Travis in 2006 came and ran the Rally de Paris in Texas, because he was like, he's kind of complaining about some things. And somebody's like, you have no idea how good you have it. Come try driving Kenny Bartram's Stud Bug, the front wheel drive, 120 horsepower new Beetle that Kenny Bartram was running. So he came into the rally in Texas, and it was Kenny and Travis and their buddy Dennis Hodson came, and so they needed one more person so they could each drive. So they were trading between driving the Subaru and the Bug, and Travis got in this new Bug, and he drove it. So one of our crew guys ended up being the spare co-driver who just got in and was just ballast. And again, another Rally 3 car coming through now. And that was the only time Travis has ever rallied, and it was he was under contract with Subaru. It couldn't be talked about. No photos were taken.
Oh, wow.
But he came and drove this Beetle, and he was like, I don't understand. How does anybody drive? There's nothing. It doesn't do anything. The gas pedal doesn't work. The brake pedal doesn't work. The steering wheel doesn't work. The tires don't work.
Everything, it's just kind of, it something happens on the stage, but you're not really in control.
Yeah, you have very limited influence, and that I think was a huge eye opener for him in understanding this is not getting to drive a Subaru, even at that time a production based Subaru is got it. It was
a very big step. It absolutely was, and I remember talking to Ken about the steps in a traditional rally driving career versus the steps he took. He was very well aware that if he took the time to go into the WRC and start in front wheel drive and really learn those techniques, and here comes
man, we're gonna stop talking, just let it rip.
Here we go.
AMX. Talk about real men of genius.
Yes.
Today we salute you, Mr. Guy who decided to rally an AMX. Oh no! So you could have bought a Subaru or a Mitsubishi Evo, but you
didn't.
stuffed all kinds of suspension under an AMX, and we love you for it, you legend.
Into a car brand that hasn't existed for longer than we've been alive. Oh God,
man.
I love that.
AMX, dude.
The braking on a car like that, just sideways crab walk under the brakes, let off, get back on the power. Oh, fantastic.
Well, and that car has been therapy for Tim. Like Tim's, he's been excited to get back in a car, and his business partner Chris Sear, has been doing some rallying as well, and they really wanted to like, hey, let's get Tim out there in the car he wants to be in. And I talked to Tim about this last year. I kind of was in the same space of like, I was rallying the Subaru and I was having a ton of fun, but also recognizing that the challenging part was, Nick Allen here and his new two-wheel drive car is a great example. This is a high-effort program. This is that car is fast. We just had them down testing at our place in Texas, and they are wild quick, which is awesome to see Nick back after 10 years.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was looking at that car, and it's a wide body Fiesta, but it's still two-wheel drive.
It is, yeah, yeah, and they're going for kind of building what would be the modern equivalent of like the old Super 1600, like a wild fast,
got it, which
turbo two-wheel drive car,
savagely quick vehicles.
But Tim, Tim wanted to come back and like just enjoy rallying, and so he just built a car that makes him smile, and he just thought it would be funny and fun, and it's what I love about that car is it makes Tim happy.
Yep.
It makes you and me happy. It makes
much
everybody who watches it at home happy. And to me, that's helping people understand, like, if you want to get involved in rallying, usually people are like, oh, I got a rally car. I'm like, what is it? And they're like, I inherited a Chevy Cavalier from my grandma. And I'm like, okay, no, so you actually have $900. They're like, what? I'm like, no, what's the CLV? What's the Craigslist value of that car? Yeah. Sell it and buy something good. Speaking of good cars, DS3. R5, a little wide.
Yeah.
His first rally in that car. He's done a little bit of testing.
Which those cars, I imagine, drive so wildly different from anything that you could be used to driving that's production-based.
Yeah.
Just razor-sharp handling. It switches ends that much easier, so your confidence going into it isn't that big.
No, it can't. I mean, it can't be. But again, like, if that's the right car for you and you've got the budget and it makes sense and you kind of know the economics of like, look, that's the best value for the kind of driving I want to do and where I'm going in my career, those R5 cars are incredible. Yeah. And again, for Tim, he's like, I want to drive something fun. I've been through my professional career.
Absolutely.
He was the top of the sport for a very long time. And he's helped so many other people get involved in rallying. It's awesome to see him in something like that. And then to see him and Mike Hurst, who, was tech director for the sport for many years.
Yep. And the two of the Ford Capri.
Dude, so good.
Coolest thing ever.
To see them out battling is just like, it's the best time machine you've ever seen.
Yeah, not having the pressure of like expected times or really comparable times or anything. You're just out there doing the thing.
Yeah. This is a car, again, we were just talking about the Golf and how common of a rally car it is. It's not common is Steve Biss in a Golf R. That is a pretty wild, that's a pretty bold chassis and choice. It's not a car that we've seen.
Genuinely so. I mean, the drivetrain setup, yes, it's all-wheel drive, but at the same time, the weight balance isn't the same as most rally cars. Yep. It's a Haldex all-wheel drive system, so it acts a good bit differently on gravel, but he doesn't seem to be struggling too much. I mean, it looks quick out there, pretty reliable.
Steve's been around the sport for a long time, and again, Steve's one of those guys who he's been in so many different cars. He knows that building something that's unique to him and that's super fun to drive is more important to him than going out and building the best possible fastest Subaru Evo combo. And again, going back to that AP4 conversation earlier, the variety is what makes the sport cool. And how can you, again, I'll never get tired of seeing GCs, but notice how many of these there are in the field. It's because they work.
Right.
But it's not for everybody.
That's quite an old car.
I mean,
25.
Okay, so if it's a 93 model year, that means that it was being sold in 1992, which means it was being engineered in the 80s.
Right.
Right? And then to think about what's even crazier is to think about how much of that it was so good and worked so well that the basic architecture of that car was continued for Subaru all the way up until the modern Impreza, right?
There's still parts, suspension parts, engine parts, everything that could bolt directly up to that chassis.
Yeah, and
that really says something.
Up to the new direct injected FA24 that's in the WRX as of the past couple years, which is an incredible step forward for Subaru. The EJs that were in those cars until last year before.
Yep.
Another spicy Rally 3. A nice field of the Rally 3 cars now.
That's a really exciting class. I'm glad to see a lot more of those cars out there because I want to see those battling a bit closer.
Yeah. Well, and again, I was chatting about this the other day with some guys. Is like this is only gonna come down in price, right? Like the Rally 3 cars.
For
again,
sure.
Think about these cars are when they come out, they're a brilliantly engineered car. I was starting to sort of allude to this earlier. Is like look at the amount of time Subaru spent developing their chassis over the past 2 decades, but then consider what a manufacturer. Think about M Sport. You've been to M Sport facilities.
Yep.
It's staggering.
The key word there is development, right? Because it's one thing to build a car and to think of some new, suspension geometries and new drivetrain pieces and all kinds of handling theories.
I got new LED light bars.
There you go. I got LED diffs. I don't know what that is. But
Bluetooth drop shaft.
But you never really know until you put the tire to the ground and actually get miles under this thing and get feedback from drivers, feedback from engineers. And the cool thing about those cars is they're constantly being developed, and they're being developed under really tight competition in Europe. So you're getting a vehicle that at any point in time you have these developments that you can call back on versus, something
the E30?
Like this. Yeah.
Which you tell me that BMW's not sending out bulletins for updates for the E30? Well, So Tony Torchia said that the other day. We were talking, and he's like, you've got a team of engineers working full-time to tell, like, sending bulletins out saying, hey, change this. Here's a new map. Here's a new setting. Here's updated, revised control arms. Whatever it is, there's new components all the time, and both in the Rally 2 cars and in the Rally 3 car, even down to the Rally 4 car, which is a largely production-based two-wheel drive Fiesta. What used to be the R2 car. We should just do like a crazy, sketchy Charlie from It's Always Sunny flowchart of all the Rally class names.
AP4, Rally 3.
Okay, so
RC2.
Rally 2 used to be R5, but R5 has nothing to do with R4, which is basically was Group N.
Kind of derived from S2000, which isn't a Honda.
Not a Honda.
S2000.
No, that's like oh, man.
Yeah.
I can't even tell what this is. What's coming towards us? Oh, I know exactly what that is. VR4. VR4.
Oh, God, what a beautiful thing.
So did you catch it? That's a V6 VR4?
I heard. Swapped from a 3000 GT?
I guess so, man. They like to party, which means it's an NA four-wheel drive car, which is, I'm still just hung up on the Purple Galaxy Black Cat door cards in there.
Listen,
that's
a trip.
Yeah,
that's
PGBC DCs. Woo! That was really challenging to get through in real time, man.
Dude.
Man, live's hard. We don't get no redos on the acronyms.
There is zero editing.
But again, that Rally 3 car, like I think you get this incredible development. You get a car, so it's like, look, if you're on the kind of budget where you want to build your own car, like great, we can relate to that.
Absolutely.
We're both constantly developing our Subaru Rally cars out of pocket as we can afford to.
Correct.
But there's a lot of drivers who say, hey, I want a really good car that works out of the box, and the Rally 3 car is an awesome fit for that. And again, you get all these development, sort of bulletins and parts that work to your advantage. That is a cool car.
Absolutely.
The E36 Compact, as they call it.
Right, the 318 Ti, as we got here in the U.S., which is, I don't know, people really kind of hated on that body style and everything, but to me, that's really cool. And you see a ton of those cars racing in Europe in lower regional classes, and a lot in the Nordic countries as well.
Yes, lot in Finland have a lot of this car.
Yes, E36 is best.
We like it's you take the small engine and you throw away and you put inside this the engine from big one from the engine. M3 car. And then you are on the gas. You say, "Whoa, it's very quick this car."
Big Sisu.
There's very much a Sisu in this car. In the group, it's H or F in, I don't remember what is the class for this car. In,
Group Finland.
Yes, Group Finland. Yes. Okay. There is coming another car here. It's a Subaru car. Yes, okay.
Ooh.
This is the highest per capita wagon field we've had in a long time, dude.
It's fantastic to see.
Bucky was throwing out.
Wagon.
He was throwing out some heavy wagon love at Snowdrift, and I think everybody went home and they just hacked their sedans off, and they're like, "Bucky likes wagons, dude. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's throw some hatch glass on this bad boy and let's take her."
Formula NA wagon.
Yeah, man.
Send it.
I do like to party. I tear it up on the weekends, and last I checked, Friday's a weekend where I come from. I ain't good at math. I round up, so it's gonna be a wagon attack out there. Pretty good.
Oh, throwback! Shout
Dude,
out
should we
to
just
Matt
chuck?
Johnston.
Should we just chuck the original wagon attack in the stream
We
tomorrow?
absolutely have to. We have to. We'll find it. We'll chuck it in there.
Scott Putnam coming up, dude. This dude. Talk about a dude who
Whoa,
loves
wide line.
rallying. This dude has been around the sport and I mean behind the driver's seat since the dawn of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, super fun to see him back on the
Synonymous
stages.
with rally in the U.S.
Yeah, totally. And
Good
he's
to see him still out there.
yeah, and he's just always there. I mean, he's consistent. He's always like he's not a guy that you see DNFing. It's not. I don't ever expect to be like, oh man, Scott made it 3 stages and he partied too hard.
Always makes it to the end.
He does. He looked good too. And what gets me is like we were looking at the 07 Ken car yesterday and discussing the classic car nature of that. But then I start to go.
Still hurts to hear that the 07 STI is a classic car.
It's getting there.
Quote, yeah.
But then I go, the 08's only 1 year newer.
Right, which is such a wildly looking. Newer in your mind chassis, but it's just like you said, it's 1 year off.
Well, that was the first time that a chassis came out with that, and the Evo 10 came out at the same time, and we were like, It was the first time that a car came out, you put a 15-inch gravel tire on it, and you're like, that looks funny.
Yeah,
that car a little big for that tire.
It doesn't look right.
Yeah. Oh man, is this? Are we gonna have another wagon? Is this? If there's a wagon, I'm gonna lose my friggin' mind.
Guessing
okay,
game on that front angle.
Oh, it's okay. We're back to sedans. I feel like all is slightly restored in the world. Right. I was like, thought we were on a weird alternate timeline for a minute. It's the timeline where only wagons were sold in the States.
It's all just an elaborate ruse to make us think in this van that U.S. Rally has just become nothing but wagons.
All right, so speaking of which, we talked about wagon attack. How would you describe what wagon attack is? Right?
Well,
That's where I'm at.
First off, it's an absolute piece of cinema that came out at a time when that level of filmmaking had no right to exist on YouTube. Okay, and it was about an 80s all-wheel drive Civic.
Yeah, on a sand dune in Michigan.
Right.
Let's just file that away.
Which then evolved somehow into Iceland.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Chris Sladek in the Honda,
Civic.
which we were looking at earlier, and he's like, it's still a big car. Like he was in the Passport, which was huge, but the Civic is like, it has grown to be, I mean, it's an absolutely unbelievably good road car for what they are now, right? Like really Honda has just said like, hey, we're just making the best road car possible. Yep. But it's still big for a rally car, and Sladek's still leading in his class last I checked.
Really?
Yeah, he's right back at it.
And
he
that's
doesn't care.
So cool because he's an engineer for Honda, and how amazing is that? Unfortunately, it's a rare thing these days to where you have guys in these levels of job that genuinely care about cars and performance, and he's a real enthusiast. He's out here racing in his off time.
The thing is, is it rare, or is it just rare that we get to see it? Because
maybe so.
It's I think that's like One Lap of America is a good example. You go do One Lap of America, and there's a bunch of Toyota engineers all just partying, right? Yeah. Like they're having the best time ever.
Or Lemons, or any of those.
Honda's here doing that, right? Like anywhere you look, these guys are desperate to be out doing that. Oh man, no way! You got to be kidding me. Is that a GC?
Oh man, I think it's another GC.
Dude, no way. I was wondering if we were going to get to see any more. That was quick.
That was quite fast.
It's just fun. This is where you get to that part of the field where it's like the speed factor, you're going down in speed factor, but the pace is still there. And like a lot of these folks, their speed factor isn't necessarily based on skill. Sometimes it's based on like they're not in a super fast car. So they come through a corner. That's incredible. That's a beautiful, look how quick that thing is. And the line's good. It's tidy. It's just that he gets on the power after that and doesn't have 300 horsepower down the straight.
Right, but the important thing is that it looks the part. Yeah. Inside the car, it's probably just as fun, but your cost to entry on that level of car is so much more approachable than it is on the top cars.
And that's why we refer to the NA four-wheel drive Subaru as kind of the spec Miata of rally,
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's like by itself on a stage, it's a rally car. It's fun to drive. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but once you get in a good battle, like it's its own thing. This thing, on the other hand,
Speaking
the old zombie
battle,
CRX.
Yes.
Brett,
thing
what
has
is
been through a battle or 10.
or 100? Yeah, with its train horn on the roof, and it's looks like the quarter panel is a topo map of the Rocky Mountains.
Right.
Like it's got a whole, it's its own special vibe there.
It is experimental vibes.
I don't know how he gets away with having that car. I mean, I think there's a specific in the rule book. It calls out the presentation of a vehicle, and he's like, "Yeah, but zombie CRX."
Right,
so,
right.
Look at it, dude.
What's the limit?
It's just, he looks like he was like, this is like a, he's like the fan favorite at a Pinewood Derby. He's just like, what else can I glue to my car before I send it down the Pinewood Derby track?
Best in show. I don't know what show it is, but it's the best in some show.
It is, and it's, I mean, again, like, when we were kids getting into cars, CRX was like, hell yeah, dude, CRX rules.
If I'm honest,
still love them.
Even when I started getting into rally, Cody Crane and his CRX was absolutely ripping. I mean, the car was on a very affordable level, but then here we got the
other
other
Hooper Lexus. Boom.
Yes,
nice work.
That, if I'm not correct, that was Hooper's first Lexus.
I believe so. Yeah. So he's got about, I think at the last count, Hooper has 687 of these Lexus. I don't know.
Lexi.
He's building them faster than every time I see him build new, and I'm like, well, fine, then we'll build another Subaru, and barely keep up. But yeah, it's, I mean, and that's a rental car. So what's cool with Hooper and River City Rally is like you can if you want to hop in a nutty rear wheel drive, weapon that sounds amazing, great, hop in that one. They're available.
There you go.
And that, again, like, that's part of what's cool is Hooper. It's like, okay, how do I get involved in rallying, and how do I make it sustainable for myself, and how do I make it more like viable? He's like, well, if I build another car and I rent it, that covers some of my transport costs, and it's a rising tide. So now he's creating more availability for more competitors, and it helps kind of cover some of his costs.
His own program. Yeah. I think it's a fantastic model.
Can't argue with that. Also, I mean, I'll just never see any GD Subaru that makes me sad, especially not Hawkeye.
The Hawkeye. What a special car for our hearts. I mean, that was that X Games era, right?
Yeah.
That's when we really started to see rally take off in the States. You had anybody from Colin McRae to Ken and Travis and Dave Mira. I mean, what a just thing. It's seared into my memory. That's rally to me.
Yeah. Oh, you did it. That's rally. So you had a funny story about Dave Mira earlier that we won't repeat. Okay. And I had a similar one. So Snowdrift 2008, I was in an Evo 6, and it was my first time ever competing on the snow. Other than that, I'd only ever been on snow and ice at Team O'Neill. And so we were going through the longest stage of Snowdrift, and we come up behind Dave Mira. It's his first rally ever in an NA 4-wheel drive car. And we catch him, we finish the stage, and he's like, pupils all dilated, and he's like, what's up, man? I'm Dave. I'm like, I know, me too. And he's like, dude, I thought I was flying. It was the best stage ever. And then your headlights came up behind me, and I was just so bummed. Oh. You must have been flying. I was like, I don't know, maybe. I had one tire that was the wrong size. But
that's incredible.
So that's the sister car to the Zombie CRX. That's the Zombie Fiesta. It's being driven by Kubo. So speaking of snow and ice, Kubo and his co-driver Scott, those two are instructors at the Bridgestone Winter Driving School up in Steamboat.
Got you.
So they look at that.
And that angle on a front-wheel drive car is impressive.
It's Kubo, dude. What do you expect?
Yeah.
And that's, again, that's like we were saying with engineers. Like, there's folks like Kubo and Scott who, like, they want rally is their passion, it's their life. Car control, and trying to figure out, how do I get in a space where I can share this with more people? And Kubo's had that passion, and he's been at Bridgestone for, I want to say, 10 years now up at the Winter Driving School. And he's kind of willing, he's like, look, I'm willing to make the rest of my year freelance instructing and work to make that work, because I love teaching that so much. And he's come out and taught with us at Rally Ready a bit as well. It's such a good dude, like, so passionate. I mean, again, you talk to any car in this field. That's my favorite part about what we get to do in Regroup is, like, we might open the door to that E30 and, like, have the best interview that's ever happened in the history of motorsport.
Because they're stoked. They're out here doing it. You know, to them it doesn't matter where they are in the field. They're chucking that thing sideways every corner.
But they're still having a Lewis and Max battle with somebody.
Right.
Everywhere in the field, there is a Lewis and Max battle happening that we can't possibly cover a field this big and catch all of those stories. We're going to miss them. Right. But, like, if you love motorsports and you love rallying, all you got to do is, like, start finding some of these folks on Instagram and start looking at the times. And it's so much fun with the live timing that we have through ARA and Sneak Attack. You can go in and, like, whoa, look how close these two are. And then who are they? Click the Instagram link right there. Go look at who they are, what the car is. You can like develop your own backstory and learn who these teams and drivers are.
Follow the story of their build.
Totally. Yeah. And I think something else that's like, it's really special to drivers, to any of us, is like you go out there, you spend all this time and energy, and have people recognize that hard work. I mean, dude.
Man.
Speaking of Team O days, dude. Classic.
The classic Audi Quattro.
Welded diff doesn't turn special.
Yup. Just absolute boat of a vehicle. So to see it floating like that through a corner, there is some driving skill involved in there.
Yeah. So looking again at those camera angles, like we spoke early on, right as we were drooling over the road before any gravel tires had gone over it, and then we talked about it when Brandon came through. But looking at that road now and seeing those conditions, it's wild to like look at that. Look at the marks.
Yep.
Coming through. It's completely different surface. Remember, it was like this clean, kind of white crowned road, and there wasn't any clear visible tire marks. What you normally get is you get this sort of gentle two-track on a gravel road, and that's where you get your highest compaction. That's where the cars all tend to drive. Even on a two-lane road, on a rural road like that, you're rarely going to see a right side of the road unless no yellow dividing line. You just drive on top of the crown.
Correct.
And you kind of like ease to the right or to the left, stay out of the way.
Line.
Yeah, but I mean, just as a road car even. And then come rally time, when it becomes a racetrack, like you obviously get your single, point of grip, but then to see the color change, it's like, all right, that loose gravel on top is now swept off instead of being packed in. Oh, just I could do it all day.
All day. Well,
Makes me
speaking
feel
of all
things.
day, Up North Motorsports Media says, I'm sad Dave is not in a car, but hope he does the live streams forever also.
Oh.
Maybe you just need to live stream from inside your car.
Funny you should mention that.
Oh.
You're aware of the network that we've recently built at our ranch. We are going to be live streaming from in a variety of rally cars very soon. So I will. How about both? How about I get back in a rally car and we do the live stream?
There you go. There you go.
Well, I mean, look, for me, I get to be in a rally car with some of my favorite people ever, or I get to sit here with some of my favorite people ever.
Oh.
Between you and Bucky, come on.
This is a really good time. Even Bearded Rhino Rally Team says, Ron and Dave are a fantastic duo.
Oh,
Thank you.
gosh.
Shout out to you.
We miss you too, Ryan. Gosh dang. Yeah, I mean, again, we get to do this anyway. This is exactly what we do whether Mike in hand or not.
Right.
Like we just sit at the ranch and just watch cars
just
and we're
sit
like,
around
yeah.
just yupping about cars and lines and gravel and crowns and all that good stuff. Now we just get to do it on YouTube.
Yeah, gravel crowns makes me feel a
Gravel
certain way.
crowns.
It's fun.
Sweeping
Who else?
lines.
Man, what else? There's what are our thoughts on the WRC event in Tennessee? So the thing I think is fun about this is everybody's like, oh, there's no way. That's been happening for like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Those meetings, those conversations have been happening for forever. Dirtfish was down there for the big festival in Chattanooga in October of 21. So it's not new. And I think what's probably important for people at home to hear is like, this is not an upstart deal. This is a WRC has every intention of being in this market.
Hawkeye alert. Sorry, this one looks like it has a giant blower on it.
Man, I wish it did.
Because of that light pod.
Man, it's got one of them Jackson Racing superchargers on there, dude.
That's a BDS, man.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Ooh, boy, I tell you, JRSC BDS 9000 super horse.
But what an incredibly exciting thing. And yes, an event of that scale takes so much organization.
Dude, it's
and just
insane.
Even down to planning with the city and the commission and everything. It's so much that goes into it. But I hope with everything I have that we could bring a World Rally Championship event here to the States. And we would do anything that we could as well to make that happen.
Yeah, I got at least $20 on it for sure. Well, so the reason Chattanooga is a really interesting market and a key player for this is you think about a rally. Look at the towns that we host these national. Ooh, look at this, light bars now.
Oh man,
it's getting to be that time.
It is. Which
it's not quite that time, but
light pods on a rally car are just the best look. Oh, hey, Andy.
Hey, that's Andy. That's Andy and KJ.
Andy DeDorsey. A dear friend. Actually, at one point in time, Andy and I worked together on Ken's team.
Yeah.
Andy runs so many philanthropic things in Detroit.
Yeah.
He had.
I bought hand sanitizer from him.
That's right. I did too. Yeah, a jug of homemade sanitizer. Yeah. And I mean, he's got public transit things.
Detroit Bus Company.
The Detroit Bus Company. He bought an old car factory.
Yeah.
He's running racing programs for kids. What an incredible guy. He just bought this car off of Facebook Marketplace a couple months ago, and now he's out here racing it with KJ Miller, a really just an epic kid. I mean,
Yeah.
up and coming co-driver. He's done co-driven more rallies than a lot of people have in their career already.
Well, his first rally as a spectator was like 2020. So like he was just like, this looks cool. I should do this.
Yeah.
What? And now he's there's maybe some Baja stuff happening for him this year with a certain handsome Kiwi. There's some possibilities there. There's I mean he's been in the whole gamut of cars. But what's wild about KJ is, you know, he co-drove for me for a few events last year, and KJ is on the point, on the notes. He's super dialed, and then he's also manages to find time to focus on the media as well. Like he's holistically so engaged in all this stuff. And then he'll, like, he was at the rally sprint with us last week, co-drove for you,
yes,
Robin Shoot,
yes,
did co-driver training for Robin Shoot,
yes,
also did homework every day,
also posting media every day.
Yeah,
when we got into my car, he was like, oh, what's your comm system? I was like, Stilo. He's like looking around at it. Oh, okay, it's not hardwired, you're gonna need a battery. I'm like,
he's like, don't worry.
And he
He had him a little belt. He's like, Funk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just a 9-volt right there.
And that pairing is so rad. Like you said, Andy is just like he's 100% soul of rally kind of guy.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the
He's
two of
done a
them
few
together.
events before.
Yeah.
But good to see him back out here.
Yeah. No, and they're having so much fun. We're gonna shame Andy till the end of time for not coming to our rally sprint, even after he promised. But everything's fine. Everything's fine.
He gave me excuses
I
about,
heard a lot of
putting his resources into this rally. But
that's what makes him such a good racing driver, dude. Excuses.
Right.
Heaps of excuses.
Driver excuses are
like,
absolutely crucial.
Oh, I had to do content video film thing.
Yeah.
Nerd. So we're getting into Dusk, which is fun. There's not a lot of cars left to run, but they're all gonna get that, like, this is the worst time for me as a driver, because this is what I almost want to wait till the cars run to say this, but this is we'll call it the wildlife hour.
Oh wow.
It's the worst time to be in a rally car, because it's the time when wildlife starts to become most active.
Yeah.
And so you all of a sudden you're, thinking about, like, these roads are going through ecosystems, right? This is also home for a lot of creatures. And rally cars are coming through looking super sweet like that Subaru, and then something crosses the road, and this is we've
seen it happen
more than a few times.
Yes.
And night is scary enough, but dusk specifically is
Well, that's what I was going to ask you before, because as a driver yourself, how much does everything change at night? I mean, your confidence, your driving lines, like what really changes for you?
I think I've noticed there's two prevailing, I don't want to say mindsets, but there's people who say, oh yeah, I can run this. If I run a stage day at night, I'm 4 seconds faster at night because there's no distraction. I think Higgins is one of those guys who really likes a night stage.
I remember that.
Because he's like, there's no distractions. I just see what I need to see. If you've got good lights, your visibility is not an issue at night. There's no concern about visibility, but think about it as tunnel vision. You only have, oh man.
Whoa. Third gen Camaro.
Oh my God, dude. Woo. Like a rock. Oh, like a rock. Look at that thing.
Dude, with the quadruple Scandinavian.
Oh, International Rally of Camaros, dude. That's what that stands for. Did you know that? International Rally of Camaros. That's what IROC stands for. Yeah. Yeah. That thing makes me feel a certain kind of way. I like the angle iron aerodynamics, dude.
Yeah. Aero, ARROW. I talked to the driver when we were at Park Expose earlier, and for as just like beastly as that thing looks, just a very mild-mannered, soft-spoken driver. I'm like, oh, what's under the hood? He's like, oh, just a fully built 350. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
There it is too.
And you can see every one of those horses coming out.
You could too
on corner exit.
Yeah, you can too. I have a character. It's called Country Hype Man, and so he just whatever you say,
Yeah.
So
I think, and he does.
He does too.
He does,
and he do too. Man, would you look at that? That's one of them Fiestas.
Yeah, repping nice. Philadelphia on the front bumper.
The cream cheese or the city?
Well, both. If we're honest, I mean, it seems like both.
Oh, goodness gracious. I don't even know what we were talking about. That IROC came in and just cleared my brain out, dude.
Everything stops when the IROC hits gravel.
I feel like I had those fancy little British finger sandwiches in my brain when we were talking, and then he came through, and now it's just Frito pie in there. I just got a whole bag of corn chips covered in Hormel chili now.
Hormone chili.
Hormone chili. That's upsetting. Oh, hey, we got a visitor in the van.
Perfect time to get the visitor in the van.
Yep.
Flat out forever. ARA Rally Dave is telling you to turn your mic flag around.
Oh, God. Come on, man. ARA Rally. What else do you want to say, ARA Rally, since you're about 2 feet away now?
You guys are doing wonderful work. Thank you.
Oh.
You do.
Oh, that's so nice.
You guys can even come back tomorrow.
Put it in the comments next time.
You heard it here. We are allowed back tomorrow, even after everything we said.
Okay, well, hang on. I want to talk about, is this La Ghetto Racing? Is that La Ghetto?
Or is it just like Laghetto?
La Ghetto. Yeah, maybe it's Italian. I don't know.
The G is uppercase. So
Yeah. La Ghetto Racing. So I bought a Cage NASA Logbook 91 Subaru Legacy rolling shell a few years ago. It's so close to done. I wish it was. Well, then finish it. What does it need, man?
Do everything you can to finish it and get yourself out on stage, because I will tell you, I lagged way too many years to get myself out on stage. And the only regret I have, with all the money spent and all the pain and everything from broken parts and whatever, is just not having done it sooner.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I called you, 3 years ago and was like, hey, we're going to a rally sprint.
Yeah.
I have an extra car. Get on a plane because it's been too long.
Yep.
And it's, the thing is, like, if you own a rally school, you can play the whole, like, first hit is free, you know? You're like, hey, man, no, just come try it out. You have a good time. And you're
Just get a little feel.
What's the deal with that?
Whoa,
we're going to do more?
I'm talking about transporting, and can I put this on a train?
What are your logistics plans? Because you gotta, what kind of tires are you using? How many should I get? Yeah, oops. Here we are.
And here we are.
Sitting in a van. Quite literally.
Yes.
Down by the river. It's a lake, but body of water. I'm just going to pretend
it just worked. It just worked. They can't see it. It's fine.
Yep.
Next time we'll just chuck a little window in here. Actually, let's just green screen this. Put whatever scenic background
green screen it. We're green screening the van.
Yep,
all right, we got to do that tonight.
Van. Here we go.
That's going to be nice. Well, here's the thing I love about this event. This is one of the most fun events to spectate because you have so many different access points and roads, relatively speaking. Some events are really challenging, but this has such awesome spectating. And again, since it's like so many competitors, it's their favorite event of the year. And look how huge the field is. 100 Acre Wood is almost always a fully packed field.
68 cars,
I
think.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, last year we were entry. It was at the entry cap. It was 95 cars or something like that.
Wow.
We'd be here till we had a birthday doing commentary if it was last year. But no, it's good, and I think it's a very welcoming place to come spectate. I mean, as they say, come on down. Missouri loves company.
I didn't actually know that.
That's the official tourism slogan of Missouri.
It's a bit longer than I expected, but it works.
Come on down, Missouri loves company. No, okay, fine. I see how it is. Oh man, endless supply of bug eyes, endless supply of Hawkeyes, endless supply of GCs. I'm just like a teenager in Subaru heaven at this.
It's fantastic. It's hitting all the vintage feels. Every one of those I see it just makes me happy.
Yeah. Well, I think again, we're kind of towards the end of the field, and we're seeing obviously the shift in pace. We're going from guys who are competing to guys, not to say everybody's not competing, but the guys who are really fighting and they're pushing, to the folks who are finding pace and they're kind of managing where they are in their regional podiums. And as you said, it's cool to see some of these folks are having their first event ever. And,
yes.
And like you just said, we're looking at people who are leaving comments about what they want to or need to finish on their rally cars to get going. And that's something that we talk a lot about is, if you're watching this at home and you're like, man, rally's awesome, how do I do this? It feels impossible.
It does.
It feels, I mean, even for you, like you said, you were at WRC rounds for seasons. You were at every ARA, Rally America and ARA round for
years and years and years. But then it's like, when it comes down to doing it myself, it's like, man, okay, well, who's my co-driver and who's going to be my crew? And I have to get a hotel and a ground sheet and spares and all this stuff. It seems like it's so much, but you start getting into it, you come to a round or two, you meet the people, you're like, wow, well, it may be a lot, but the support groups are there, and there's people that want to do this. There's people that want to help out. They want to see you on stage. Bring your Ford Focus out. You know?
Honestly. Well,
take it out of your driveway. Put some suspension on it.
And that's one of the things I was going to say. So there's a few pieces to getting involved in rally. One is come to a rally.
Yeah.
As soon as you come to a rally and you meet the organizers, your fellow volunteers, come volunteer and get behind the scenes and see how it works. These events run on an enormous network of volunteer labor. I mean,
genuinely
hundreds of people are showing up and donating their time, standing in the woods, whether it's 25 degrees and raining or it's 110 degrees and searing hot. taking time cards and setting up spectator areas and marshaling, and they're all being trained by a whole bunch of other volunteers. I mean, it's a crazy amount of passion, and that's part of what makes rallying so unique is the entire sport is run by people who are so diehard passionate about rallying that they're willing to invest every bit of free time that they have to a fault at times, and like dysfunction junction in their personal lives. We've all been there, but like that's what the sport's built on. So if you're you're somebody sitting at home who's like, I want to be one of these guys, I want to be one of these, I want to be in my focus, show up to a rally and volunteer. Go to ARA Rally and look at the website and go look at all the events. There's the nationals and the regional events. Find something that's within travel distance, volunteer, meet some folks there, look at some rally cars, and then from there you have a few options of, a rally school is a great place to start because you essentially get to pay for. These guys are all paying for seat time, and learning in seat time is very hard. It's like imagine learning how to play basketball by showing up to a basketball game. Right. That's hard to do.
And your learning curve is completely different then too, because if you come out and the first thing you learn is that, well, maybe you should have put a skid plate on your car, and you lose your entire oil pan on stage 1. So you did all this money, time, and logistics to come to a rally just to learn that. Yeah. Versus coming to a rally school and you learn these fundamental things right off the bat.
And again, yeah, absolutely. I mean, my first rally, I showed up and was like, yeah, great. Didn't know the difference between stage notes and a route book, and it wasn't very clearly explained. And so my co-driver, more importantly, didn't know. So he was just like, all right, it's straight for 2 miles. Wrong. He didn't have an instruction for 2 miles. Immediately parked it on top of a bunch of saplings.
Oh,
luckily we finished. But going and finding, you're buying an incredible amount of knowledge from a team of people who are so dedicated to the sport that they've chosen to make it their career. And that'll kind of help guide you. One of the things I talk about at our rally school is what's your budget, and that's time and money. How much time do you have available, and how much money do you have, both cash on hand and how much sort of recurring revenue, shall we say?
Right, like what's your burn rate on running this team?
Yeah. And it's challenging because nobody likes conversations about money, but the reality is like understanding how much time you can spend is going to help decide, okay, if you don't have a lot of time but you have a little bit of budget, great. An arrive and drive rental is a great place for you. You can show up, everything's there ready to go for you. Or if you have got a lot more time than you do budget, then build a car. And that's where, looking at somebody who's got this legacy in their garage, that's where seeking some wagon party. Seeking some counsel, whether it's in, a rally Facebook group where there's, some support and some trolls,
and then some JVabs out there that are telling you to,
just buy a Volvo.
Yes, yeah.
Which smoke honestly, more, buy Volvo.
that a Volvo may work for you, but no, I think that's a really, really good point because yes, money has to be talked about, but at the same time, just because you don't have a ton doesn't mean you can't rally. That just means, well, if that's your budget, then you can rent one car for one event.
Yeah,
and that's still a good time. That's so much seat time.
It
over
is.
That amount of days that it's still a good time. Then save up again and do another one in a rental car.
Totally. And you may have a regional rally cross program that you can participate in.
Absolutely.
We've started the ARA rally sprints down at the Rally Ranch. Our sort of missing link. Look at that thing, dude.
Oh,
look at it just dancing
passport?
under the brakes. That is your reigning limited four-wheel drive. Just to be clear, that is a car that is competing against a Rally 3 car, and it won that championship last year.
That is...
Isn't that insane?
Nothing short of insane.
But you know what that is, and this isn't to take away from how hard Chris and those guys drove that car last year. They did an incredible job, but it's also that car didn't miss a stage mile. It just worked all year. And so when the rest of us were having mechanical issues or we were in a big battle and made mistakes, those dudes were just there to get consistent points. Yep. And that, again,
engineers.
It's the battle of the war.
Yeah.
Do you want to win the battle or do you want to win the war? And it's really easy to get caught up in the battle. And again, sort of taking that same mindset back into the rally car, it's really easy when you're building a car to be like, no, I have to have the built engine and I have to have
horsepower,
the best wheels and the best everything.
Yeah.
And I absolutely understand that because we got to the pace in our car last year that it was we recognize like, okay, the limiting factor here is that we have to have the most expensive stuff because we're going to break everything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you get to that point, but as a novice driver, I mean, you pointed it out earlier, there's a focus on stock wheels out here. The stock alloy wheels are very strong.
Yep.
They're not as strong as, a Evo Corsa Speedline, gravel wheel that is going to be a completely different deal. Ooh, the yellow lights are nice.
It is very nice. But at the same time, that kind of wheel isn't going to break your budget when you inevitably, hit a frozen groundhog and lose a wheel. Like that may take you out versus Oh, look at that.
Oh, Alan Bolito, the legend himself.
Is that Al?
That's Alan. Yeah, there he is, dude.
That's so cool,
Isn't that
man.
awesome.
Yeah, check out his YouTube channel on the build of that car.
Yeah,
very,
super
very cool.
So,
such a nice guy.
But that's the piece that, like, you know, you point out the frozen groundhog, but let's talk about the folks who hit that. Those were all the guys in the top 10, top 15 who were taking the big cuts and the big risks. As a new driver, you don't have to have all of the most expensive, fanciest parts. Now, I am always the guy who is like, you know, it's better to sort of buy once, cry once, right, with the nicer parts instead of buying them 100 times. But that there's still a place for some of the budget components. It just, you kind of have to understand what's your pace, your skill, and what's your expectation. You as a rally driver, are always driving to the conditions.
Yep.
And whether that's your first car on the road, you're sweeping the loose marbles, or you're the 45th car on the road and it's muddy and you're just driving through ruts.
Yep.
You're always adapting. First loop, you get good conditions. Second loop, 70 cars have driven through this.
Completely changed.
Totally. It's a completely different experience. So, you know, you're always adapting what your driving style is to that, and the same thing goes for the car. You have to recognize that, like, you start a rally with ideally a great fully prepped rally car, and it through the weekend the cool thing about a rally tire is, like, a sports car racing tire, it's like, okay, it has its heat cycles. A rally tire is the square edge of the tread block. If you look at the side of a rally tire, it's a very sharp edge, and that's where your grip is. If you're sliding into the corners and you've got that bite and that grip, and so you'll see a rally tire, you'll see the top teams will come in and they'll change tires, and everybody's like, what are they doing? That thing's brand new.
Yeah.
Looks like it barely lost its little fuzzy.
But it's lost the shoulder.
It's lost the shoulder, so it's game over. So when you lose that shoulder, then you lose the tire. And so I think, you know, the same thing applies. Is like, does that mean that tire's junk? No, it just means that for people at that level, it makes sense to invest the budget for the speed. But that tire now can live on forever for a grassroots guy for 4 more events.
Absolutely. I was talking to our buddy John Kramer, who runs regional on the East Coast. And that's exactly what he does. I wasn't used to that, but John runs, he said a set of tires lasts him like half a season sometimes.
That's crazy.
Because it's a light car. It doesn't take a
little squirrel action.
A little bit of squirrel coming up. But they're just takeoffs. He gets takeoffs from some of the top teams, and that's a great budget cheat right there. Yeah,
and again, like we said, like you can still be competitive in your class regionally with somebody. Yep. You might be having the best battle in this field might be for 11th in class in regional limited 2-wheel drive. We have no idea, right? It's just, and those guys might be fighting the rally of their life, and they're driving as hard as they can, and we don't see that. But what we're not seeing is you've got, you know, some folks who maybe you've got a veteran competitor who's been competing for 7 seasons, and maybe you've got somebody who it's their first event, and they're both on worn out tires, and they've both got, you know, closer to a stockish suspension,
right?
And that's maybe a completely different deal.
Maybe one's got a super dialed car and burnt tires, and one's got a mediocre car but really good tires, and it's a similar battle, you know.
Well, and going back to Chris Duplessis.
Oh, and here we go on sweep.
You know, you mentioned Crit, man, look at that. Chris Duplessis, that was what he was famous for in 2-wheel drive. He didn't have the budget, but he just had the raw, insane speed and commitment that you'd have somebody with all the budget in a 4-wheel drive car who couldn't hang because he had the commitment. Well, that's always our cue. That's the sweep truck. Sweep truck going through means that the stage is complete. The course is now back to being a public road and no longer a racetrack. That means all these guys are creeping back in here for service, and probably some hot dogs and some nachos, maybe a can of Campbell's Thick and Chunky.
Typical rally gourmet.
As
we see here in the service park by the river.
Absolutely. So I think that means our day's about wrapped up too.
That sounds about wrapped for today. We're back in it tomorrow. Full day of rallying tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow's the big day. You know, it's easy on a day like this to be like, oh man, all right, that was a long. We didn't start until the afternoon today.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right? And then we didn't have to drive rally cars.
And we didn't have to recce. We didn't have to do any of that.
No, I didn't have to do any homework.
Yeah. We're just 2 men in a cold van. Salt and pepper.
Just 2 dudes in a chilly van. Yeah, old strawberry and cream here. Old salt and pepper. Old fire and ice. Anyway, so we'll be back tomorrow morning. We'll be there for Parc Exposé in the morning. Are we at Parc Exposé, or are we just going straight anyway? We'll be up in the morning.
We will be up. We'll be delivering you gripping reviews of rally food, rally cars, strategies, how to get yourself on stage, and some of the good battles that we have going on around here.
Yeah, wow, that was nice. That gripping. I was special. That made me feel things. All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Brighton sometime at some point. Talk about rally cars again. But for now,